Hey guys, Poker Pharaoh here. Today we're going to talk about preflop ranges. So, what is a preflop range? A preflop range is simply the cards we're going to choose to play preflop as opposed to the ones that we're going to fold. So here we have a showdown, pocket aces versus 7-2 offsuit. Pocket aces is going to win 88% of the time, and 7-2 offsuit, it's going to win sometimes, but only 12% of the time. For that reason, we're going to lose more often than we're going to win, so we should be folding 7-2 offsuit. So here's a list of all the hands, and of course there are a lot of junk hands that we should be folding, not just 7-2 offsuit, but 3-10, 4-jack, 5-7, 3-5, 2-4. These are all junk hands that are going to lose way more often than they're going to win, and so we should just fold them pre-flop. Here's an example of some cards we might want to play. This is a tight range of about 14%, so we got lots of high cards with aces in them, Jack Queen, King Jack, pocket 10s, pocket 9s, just the strongest cards. Here's a bit wider range. This is a range of 28%. So as you can see, we start to include hands like pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 6s, some other ace-x hands like ace 7, ace 8, and then a few more suited connectors and suited one-gappers like 10-9, jack 9. Obviously our suited cards are a little bit stronger than our offsuit cards. So here's an important concept, and the idea is that the earlier we play, the tighter we should play, and the later we play, the wider we should play. Now, what I mean by this is that the earlier you are, you want to play a really tight range, and that's because there's lots of players to come after you that could have a stronger hand. And when we get closer to the button, we actually have a huge advantage because we get to see what the other players do first, and then we get to make our decision. So we are much more informed, and for that reason, we should play a wider range of hands. So here are the main kinds of ranges. We have an opening range, a calling range, and a 3-bet range. In this scenario, the under the gun player folds, the under the gun +1 player folds, and middle position 1 decides to open for $6. They could do this with maybe a 10 to 14% range, depending on who they're playing with. And that's going to be, the 10 to 14% of the strongest cards. Here we can see the under the gun +1 player decides to open for $6, and middle position 1 calls for $6. So this could happen sometimes maybe with, 10 jack suited, 9-10 suited, or some pocket pairs like pocket 7s. We don't want to do this with our strongest cards because those are the cards we're going to want to raise and get more money in the pot, and that will also help us to isolate the under the gun player's range. So we'll have a better idea of what cards he might have. Here we can see an example of a 3-bet. So under the gun +1 raises to $6, and middle position decides to 3-bet to $16. This is what you want to be doing with your stronger cards like ace king, ace queen, kings, jacks, hands like that. We also have some other ranges. We have an isolation range, and then a 4-bet, 5-bet, 6-bet range, etc. So here we can see the under the gun +1 player decides to limp in for $2, which is a sign of weakness. So middle position 1 says, okay, I've got a weak player to the right of me, and I want to play with this player, but I don't want anyone after me to be in this pot also. I want to just have the under the gun player to myself. So he decides not to raise to $6. He decides to raise to, $8 or $10 instead, and this will help to isolate that limper. So here we see our standard 3-bet. Under the gun +1 raises to $6, middle position 1 3-bets to $16, and the action comes back to under the gun +1, who decides to put in a 4-bet to $45. This should be done with only our strongest range of hands. So that concludes our video for today. That was the introduction to preflop ranges. If you want to learn more about preflop ranges, we're going to have specific videos on our different opening ranges and 3-bet ranges, etc. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, and hope you learned something. Cheers.